Good evening, everyone. It is almost time for us to go live. Good evening, everyone. It is almost time for us to go live. I need to go gather up the patrons, so I'm going to switch us back into intro loop. And we are almost ready. Just need to make a couple of announcements before we get started, and we are almost ready. First off, guys, get Cinema Discord. Let's get everyone in here. Everyone, join us for the premiere live stream of the Kaiserreich Documentary Episode 03. That's correct, this is episode 3 that we're releasing today. Do not adjust the settings on your computer machine. Episode 2 is being released out of order because we have ongoing lore reworks in the Union of Britain and Commune of France territory, as you guys know. So episode 2 will actually come after this episode. We've decided to go ahead, work on Union of Britain first, and then go forward. I need to sign into chat, it appears. So let me get into my thing here. Omar Bradley back in chat. Looks like we've got all the regulars here. Good morning to Australia. It is evening here in Europe. Beautiful, crisp morning, evening in Belgium. I love those early spring sort of cold weather situations. Absolutely wonderful. Join us for the premiere live stream of the Kaiserreich Documentary episode 03. We will also do a poster. Aha! Comrade Union has appeared. Long may he reign. Thank you for the super chat, Comrade Union. Alvin CM Engo, patron, long-time contributor. We will also do a poster. Giveaway. Okay, that is going to go out. Publishing that, and then let's see if we can get our patrons in here. Ah, looks like this chat is already filling up. I'm going to undeafen myself. Also unmute. Hello everyone, can you guys hear me in the patron and crew chat? Not everyone. Oops, I just sent out not everyone in the crew. Live stream goes live in 5 minutes. You can find us in the patron and crew chats. Gabriel, you there, man? Am I not coming through Discord, it seems. There we go. Posting is announcement here, announcement there, all the regulars. Shooting up a message to our Kaiserreich, and then we'll be able to start the live stream in a couple of minutes. Bear with me, gentlemen. Looks like we've got people from all over the world saying hello. Homero Garza Jr., another regular, showing back up. Hello from the Pacific States, Australia, Asia, and of course the various parts of Middle Europa. Kaiserreich Documentary Episode 3, a live stream. Live premiere. Just going to send that one out. Aha, I am not getting audio from Discord because I see your typing, Squire, but I'm not hearing you. Can you type in Patron and Crew Lounge if you can hear me? And that is an issue that occurs. Ah, I remember. When your PC wakes up from sleep mode, I need to. Okay, I need to cut off real quick. Cut off Discord and then rejoin. I think that solves the issue. This is a persistent issue that I've had. Whenever you wake up your computer from sleep mode and then you join a Discord voice channel, like Discord is not going to work. Can you guys say something? See if I can catch you.
Is this working?
Yeah, I got you. All right, that was it. It's the, you know that thing that I always have when my PC comes out of sleep mode and then I don't hear anyone on Discord. It's always the same bug. It's quite strange. Oh, Can you say a couple things just so I can test audio levels?
My PC comes out of sleep mode.
Okay, that should work. Just a minute. Always the same bug. It's quite strange. Oh, can you say a couple things just so I can test audio levels? My PC comes... Okay, looks like we've got all our audio levels worked out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to start our live stream. As soon as I find the correct settings in my OBS. Once more, it wouldn't be an official Kaiser Cinema live stream without shenanigans, of course. I think it's this one. Nope, that's kind of a weird crop. Here we are. Yes. Good evening, morning, and day to our cats all over the world. This is the Kaiserreich Documentary Episode 3 premiere live stream. Do not adjust the settings on your computer machine. You have not misunderstood. This is Episode 3. Episode 2, you have not found it because it simply is not made yet. Due to ongoing lore reworks in Kaiserreich, we've decided to make the Union of Britain video before we did the Commune of France video. That is because the end of the Wild Creek and Commune of France are still undergoing rework. Should be done by now. So we're almost ready to start the script. It will probably not take 6 months like this video did. However, it is a really cool video. It's the longest video I think we've ever done on the channel. 30 minutes documentary. We've got Patrick Warner. We've got all the regulars in here. Can you guys sound off in the patron and crew chat? Let's see who's here. Gabriel, what's up, man?
Hello. I'm here to watch the product of our time and investment.
The product of our deep fascination. Let me put you guys on share screen so the live stream can see. Which one of these?
Test. Can anyone hear me? Just making sure.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Hello.
I'm simply trying to find. I have a. This is screen 2. Actually, screen 2 will do.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Kaiser Cinema patrons and crew. We have Gabriel Flamefang Matsakis with us, documentary team, as well as ComradeZim, head of Union of Britain Rework. So, Comrade, can you talk a little bit about the Union of Britain video we are about to watch? One you co-authored, of course.
Yeah, sure. Is there anything specific you want to watch from me?
So I think we'll talk a little bit more about the Commune of Britain right after watching the video, but just in general, like what were your aims when doing the Union of Britain rework, the lore of which we will see in this video?
Oh, so you said the aims of it?
Yeah, basically.
Probably say like when I looked at the old stuff, there wasn't really much there, and a lot of it, it was weirdly fluffy is the kind of right word. There was very little development. It's just everything just kind of came into play and it all worked out great. And then you had people in the wrong places and doing stuff straight out of character. And I think I kind of wanted to change that. And you've got because it's totally fictional for Britain, and because it's such an interesting place, so much you can work with. I wanted to sort of make something that's quite interesting for that. And there's a lot of storytelling potential with it. And because there's just so much you can play with, and you've got these figures who just so obscure in our own timeline. You can finally sort of play with them, around with them, and to bring them to the forefront spotlight.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. So what we have, guys, is the Union of Britain video. It is set to the newest Union of Britain lore. It is 30 minutes long. I suggest we don't take too long in the start of this live stream. I suggest we just go straight into the video, if you guys are cool. Anything else you would like to add before we play the whole thing?
No, that's for me.
All right, sounds good. So to our live stream audience, welcome. This is the Kaiserreich Documentary Episode 3 live stream, in case you are just signing into us. Welcome again. This is our first public appearance, I think, this year. We've been in the kitchen cooking. I'll talk a little bit more about future projects we are releasing in the next couple of months right after video. But of course, let's move on to the main event. I'm going to pull up the file and give you guys a full look at the Kaiserreich Documentary Episode 3. Kaiser Cinema Project, Collapse of Britain, final renders. Need to make sure my system audio is on, because I've had that issue. Right, I'm going to deafen myself on Discord, guys, so you guys don't speak into the playing of the video. Okay, we are almost ready. Just need to make sure I have the correct OBS settings. Is this the right video? Okay. I just need my audio to work. Yes, I think this will do nicely. Testing, testing. Oh, okay. Perfect. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kaiserreich Documentary, Episode 3, Collapse of the Union of Britain. Part of our Kaiserreich Documentary series, an ongoing project to create the lore of Kaiserreich in a fully detailed documentary-style video series. Thank you all for joining us, and we will watch the whole thing. I hope you guys have some drinks, have some snacks, because this is a 30-minute video. Enjoy. This video was sponsored by ourselves. More specifically, our new spin-off project, Flagmaker and Print, is a free online service which allows you to design and print your own custom country flags. I'll have more info after the video. Enjoy the show, guys.
The Victorian Golden Era saw the British ascend to a superpower status, the likes of which the world had never seen before. By the dawn of the 20th century, Great Britain boasted an empire upon which the sun would never set. Vast territories and populations under her control, resources beyond human imagination, all guarded by the greatest fleet that had ever sailed the seven seas, the Royal Navy. In those golden days, the empire seemed unassailable. However, her fortunes were about to change. For a spectre was haunting Europe. It was the spectre of Syndicalism. The Great War, believed at first to be a quick campaign to subdue the upstart Germans, began a decade-long process of entropy and finally collapse for the British Empire. At the Somme and Passchendaele, from the jungles of East Africa to the North Sea, the Germans chipped away at Britain's imperial advantage. Into the war, Britain poured the wealth of nations, massive sums in gold and silver, material and lives, all accumulated over centuries of imperial rule, all spent in pursuit of victory. But then the war came to an end with a whimper and without a victory. The war's early optimism was replaced with deep hopelessness. As trains full of coffins returned from the front of a lost war, the people of Britain were forced to ask the damning question: what was it all for? As the new decade brought more hard days, not less, and the debt-riddled government floundered, that question echoed from the Houses of Parliament to the city streets. What was it all for? To most, the 1919 peace with honour seemed anything but. While the cities and towns of England had emerged largely unscathed, Britain nursed a set of deep and debilitating wounds. London, once the world's financial capital, found itself profoundly in debt. The nation's youth, once heralds of a new age, lay scattered in shallow graves. With them died the national spirit, once proud, now broken, tainted by pessimism and despair. While the powerful mourned Britain's lost standing, the poor struggled to scrape by. Demobilization left millions jobless, and the nation's debts ushered in a new age of austerity. Yet, even as the almshouses filled and the breadlines grew, the government found a new object for its spending. Britain's fleet was aging, and with the war's end, German naval programs resumed unabated. To match the Kaiserreich Marine's new Bayern and Mackensen classes, as well as its newer unfinished designs, the Royal Navy ordered a new round of naval expansion. Britain, the government said, could not afford to lose the seas as she had lost continental Europe. In the streets, many struggled to afford the price of bread. The British Empire, strained by humiliation and economic downturn, began showing cracks in her fragile, multi-ethnic web of dependencies. From Dublin to Delhi, the subjects of an empire once thought invincible began dreaming of a future free from foreign domination. The delicate line of dominoes that formed the British Empire had begun to wobble, and Ireland, so close to home, would be the first to fall. Ireland had been a hotbed of discontent long before Britain's fortunes turned in the Great War. Her long-existing tensions had already erupted into open rebellion during the Easter Rising of 1916. Although authorities crushed the insurrection, martial law remained in effect across the island, and sporadic fighting continued as the war progressed. By 1918, attempts to introduce conscription sparked draft riots, heavily depleting local loyalist paramilitaries, the Ulster Volunteers. Sensing their chance, the increasingly separatist party Sinn Féin called for a boycott of the draft and resistance to the Royal Irish Constabulary, causing its leading members and, most notably, its president, Eamon de Valera, to be arrested for conspiring with Germany. The ongoing riots and strikes in Ireland reached a fever pitch at the Home Rule elections in December. Sinn Féin, London's hated enemies, took the election by a landslide and inaugurated their own legislature, the Dáil Éireann. On December the 8th, the Dáil declared Irish independence with German backing.
No longer will the people of Eire sit under the jackboot of the English occupant, the London aristocrat, the oppression of the RIC man. Today, we make right our unlawful occupation by the Anglo-Saxon and return Ireland to her rightful owners, her people, her government. This legislature, the rightful government of the Isle of Ireland, hereby declares independence from Great Britain. I call upon every man of Ireland to take up arms against the oppressors. We shall have our freedom, or we shall have death. Erin go bra!
When the news reaches Lloyd George in London, the Prime Minister is furious. In a special session of Parliament, the British government moves to eliminate the Irish rebels via underhand and sinister tactics. British troops, fresh from the European front, depart for Dublin, and soon German arms begin to flow into Irish hands. As the war drew to a close in Europe, it would continue with cloak and dagger along many conflicts around the world. Despite harsh words and the deployment of troops, Lloyd George's faltering government is determined to fight the Irish war quietly. British soldiers are only to play a supporting role, alongside the Royal Irish Constabulary and their associated paramilitary units, like the Black and Tans, demobilised soldiers from the Western Front. Nonetheless, following its disgrace at the Treaty of Versailles, George's Liberal government collapses in the December elections and is replaced by a Conservative alliance led by Bonar Law. As Law's new Conservative government takes power, he vows to crush the Irish Revolution decisively. The limitations placed on British troops are removed and direct action is encouraged. The violence escalates rapidly, and soon the River Shannon runs red. Lurid tales of atrocities reach London, shocking the populace deeply. Law's approach is fueled in part by fear and desperation. Across the Channel, France has continued its descent into civil war, and by early April 1920, the situation has clearly spun beyond the government's control. Radical forces in Britain are elated, and talks in the streets speak of revolution, a government for and by the worker. The government uses wartime legislation to clamp down on leftist agitators, but complete suppression is impossible. Soon, a number of fringe parties merge to form the Syndicalist Party of Great Britain. Over the next several years, the party of the gear and torch will rapidly expand, quickly absorbing much of the radical leftist political scene. By early 1921, Law's aggressive policies in Ireland are widely regarded as having been a failure. With the war ongoing, and with a growing list of atrocities accredited to British troops, his government finally sees the writing on the wall. In July, they reluctantly sign a truce, followed in November by a peace treaty, and on December the 10th, 1921, Ireland is declared independent. As crowds gather in Dublin to celebrate, the occasion is marked in Berlin with handshakes, champagne, and words of congratulation. Even with the war's end, a loss for Britain is a victory for Germany, and it seems certain that the faltering empire is now living on borrowed time.
In the end, it was not our victory in the Ved Creek that defeated the British Empire. What defeated Britain was Britain itself. Overextended, exhausted, with the countless millions who chafed under her rule waiting for the first signs of collapse. It then pains me greatly to see our own Reichstag make the very same mistake, not a decade later. How many British colonies can we absorb before the Reich is stretched to her limit? What use is a world empire if a tiny spark can burn it all down in a heartbeat?
By 1923, the British Labour Party has grown rapidly, spurred on by the promise of a fairer future without austerity and poverty. With the more radical Syndicalist front suppressed by the wider government, leadership is handed to a Labour government in hopes of appeasing the agitated populace, groaning under economic hardship. Despite their electoral victory, Ramsay MacDonald's Labour governs as a minority, dependent on tacit Liberal support. A commitment to peace, an end to austerity, and much-needed housing reform are all popular measures, but as Britain wallows amid economic crises, these promises are left mostly unfulfilled. Repeatedly confounded by its nominal coalition partners and unable to pass effective policy, the government collapses amid the fallout of a minor legal scandal, having lasted less than a year. Protests erupt in the streets, outraged at the swift collapse of the only leftist government in memory, as more and more Labour notables begin openly sympathising with the wider leftist front.
The nation was in decay. You could hear it, feel it in the streets. It began with the miners, you see. Illegal papers began printing slogans like War of the Lords and Lions led by donkeys. When the war ended inconclusively, we had lost so much and gained nothing. In the place of our foreign enemy came a domestic one. Revolution. Government for and by the workers. They called it syndicalism.
Following the collapse of the Labour government, the Tories, Liberals, and a breakaway Labour faction under MacDonald form a national government vowing to clean up the budget and exercise constraint. Among their first acts is an end to the naval expansion programme launched nearly 4 years earlier. Once seen as a vital necessity, the rising issue of war debt repayments and the expensive shipbuilding programme threatened to collapse the budget. Simply put, the government could no longer afford a large navy. The ailing empire faces dramatic deficits, and printing money risks inflating the pound, then still the world's currency, into oblivion. With the stroke of a pen, the dockyards in England fall silent, sending tens of thousands into unemployment. Sensing the instability, foreign governments begin dropping the pound one by one. The British government is forced to take draconian financial measures to keep its currency afloat. Britain's once great fleet rots in underfunded naval bases, and tensions with radical factions in the military begin to rise. Popular outrage swells, and mass protests fill the streets. It would only take a single spark to light this powder keg. On May the 13th, upon hearing the news of the massive fleet decommissioning and pay cuts, the iconic HMS Hood lands in Plymouth and starts a full-scale mutiny. Although the mutineers are soon arrested, a large crowd at the docks intimidates the police into releasing their captives and calling for backup. The subsequent violent crackdown leads to an open riot across the city. The strikers soon find support from the Transport and General Workers Union, which calls for solidarity strikes. The national government responds by promptly banning the union. Outraged, Labour and the trade union movement announce a nationwide general strike, and prosecutors face off with the police across Britain. The government, fearing a French-style revolution, moves quickly. The military is sent in to support the police. The situation in Plymouth is tense, but it would be a small, sleepy port in Wales that would dramatically accelerate events. The end of the British Empire would begin, of all places, at Port Talbot in Wales. In September that year, a soldier at Port Talbot panics and opens fire on striking workers. In response, the strikers storm the local barracks and assault the garrison. The national government, confused and panicked by this unruly mob, declares a state of emergency and begins banning multiple leftist organisations. Labour MPs that speak in favour of the strikers are arrested in the Commons and charged with sedition, a major breach of parliamentary privilege. With blood flowing and violence exploding across the nation, the government mobilises the Territorial Army. The loyalty of these local forces is found wanting, however, as large parts of the Cardiff regiments go into mutiny. The workers and soldiers declare the Cardiff Commune, and much of South Wales falls to the rebels. Around the same time, Syndicalist rebels and soldiers clash at the Battle of the Railways in Livingston between Edinburgh and Glasgow. The disorganised and undersupplied army is defeated by the rebel surge, and much of Scotland falls to a Syndicalist uprising. Scottish independence groups mix with the left-wing front and declare a Scottish republic. Across England, police officers and soldiers desert their posts. Liverpool declares itself a free city and falls to the rebels by December. She is joined by Manchester on Christmas Day. The Home Isles are tearing at the seams, with tense firefights erupting over key points. The British Civil War has begun. In 1925, with royalist artillery thundering in the distance, the leading caste of the trade unions and leftist parties gather in Liverpool to formalise their revolution and declare the Union of Britain. The Union Jack, the flag that has flown over the British Isles and much of the world for the better part of 5 centuries, is taken down. In her place, the soldiers raise an unfamiliar red, white, green Republican flag. Based on the little-known British Republican flag, the new scarlet hoist is proudly emblazoned with the golden symbol of the Syndicalist gear and torch. The Internationale proudly proclaims that revolution in Europe is only the beginning. From Dublin to Cape Town, from Los Angeles to Tokyo, one day the world revolution would come to every nation. 3 scarlet banners now fly over Western Europe, and more would soon follow. Gathered Syndicalist militias line up outside and salute the rising crimson banner as an orchestra plays the Internationale. With thunderous applause, the Union of Britain is declared as the successor government of the United Kingdom.
No longer will the workers of Britain suffer under the yoke of the ruling class. No longer will we yield the power and fruits of our labour to noble houses built upon theft and slavery. No longer will we die in foreign wars to line bosses' pockets. Now is the time of the common man, the iron worker and the pitman, the fighter and the shipbreaker. Now we build the workers' state, a union of Britain. Let our chains be broken forever.
After the ceremony, George Lansbury is tapped as president and A.J. Cook is elected chairman. Leading Scottish officials join the Union of Britain, leading to a unified Syndicalist front and the dissolution of the Scottish Provisional Republic. The fall of Wales sends the royalist government into turmoil. Martial law is declared for the entirety of Great Britain, and the royal family is evacuated to Canada under the guise of a state visit. The Union manages to push down towards the River Trent as the Territorial Army begins to defect near the Greater London area. The opening phases of the war saw successes for the royalist forces, however. Especially the difference in artillery and naval support means that the Royalists, backed by the ever-loyal Royal Navy, managed to hold on to the most important coastal cities and push the Syndicalists inward in many confrontations. The war escalates further by foreign volunteers streaming into the United Kingdom. Foreign troops from both sides of the ideological struggle clash on the British Isles, now a war zone. The technological advantage of pro-government troops soon proves to be ineffective against the ideological fervour of the Syndicalist rebels, who begin to outnumber Royalist forces after mere months. Despite their best efforts, no artillery can match the teeming masses of disgruntled workers, revolutionary partisans, and inner-city folk that join the revolution en masse. By spring, the Royalists' fortunes would turn. As Royalist forces push out from the cities, they soon find the disloyal worker population of the areas they control turn against them. Wherever they attempt to sally from their fortified city positions, Royalist forces are met with insurgency and sabotage. Rail workers, many loyal to the Syndicalist cause, ensure that the control of stockade and supply trains remain in red hands. Furthermore, systematic subversion of the rail networks around Royalist bastions ensures they remain trapped in their own fortifications. The King's forces are encircled and supplied only by the naval support from the Royal Navy. Facing enemies within and without, Royalist strongholds in the West Midlands begin falling one by one. By midsummer, the first units of Loyalists and the new Republican army clash at Nottingham, leading to a shocking victory for Red forces. With London falling into rebel hands soon after, Royalist forces realise the war has finally turned against them. In Northern Ireland, the Ulster elite enter secret negotiations with their Irish counterparts, but the talks drag on. Later, threats of separate British and Irish invasions push them to pick the lesser evil, hastily but reluctantly joining the Republic. London has fallen, and the Union is broken. The Navy attempts to mass evacuate nobles and Loyalists all over England. These mass evacuations cause a general panic and chaos at the ports as the Empire begins to unravel.
The evacuation was a dismal affair. Proper ladies and gentlemen crowded into cramped military ships like cattle, clinging to their meagre belongings and what they had managed to save from their opulent mansions before fleeing the country like rats. Many found their staff suddenly turned against them, and many more were turned over to the Syndicalist rabble before they had a chance to escape. On the ships, we fought over scraps and food. I saw 2 men in full evening wear enter a fistfight over a single can of tuna. So went our procession of hunger and thirst, as our home, Great Albion, disappeared in the horizon, smoke billowing over her once great cities. Never had I known such defeat and humiliation. Our way of life, the British Empire, it all collapsed in mere months. Europe burns under a scarlet banner, and I'm afraid soon the world will follow her example.
By autumn, Canadian troops begin to mobilise, hoping to stall Syndicalist momentum. Whatever remains of the retreating Loyalists are now only focused on keeping the ports open as long as possible. They are pursued relentlessly by Syndicalist forces attempting to close the southern ports before the onset of winter. The Republican army would fail their Blitz offensive, but only barely. Plymouth, Brighton, and Southampton form a final defensive line against the Syndicalist tide. Minefields and delaying actions keep the rebels at bay as the last notables are evacuated from the war zone. Fearing incoming Canadian reinforcements, the Union of Britain negotiates an intervention with the Commune of France. They help the Republican army stage a daring proto-commando raid on Southampton. Tense nightly firefights erupt among the ports, and the citizens of these southern cities awake to Commune flags flying over their homes. Fearing imminent French invasion, the government abandons its positions and officially declares its intent to pull out of Britain. Soon, Syndicalist forces have raised scarlet banners over all the cities of England proclaiming their victory. The revolution has been won. Great Britain, the eternal empire, had collapsed. Across the Channel, the German Empire saw her final victory at last, but perhaps not the one she went looking for a decade earlier. Her hated enemies were in ruins, yes, but replacing the flawed democracies of France and Britain were new, revanchist, syndicalist states, with world revolution as their overriding goal. This threat, and all it implies, would define the rest of the 1920s and beyond. In the Union of Britain, however, those who favour what remained of the former government have only seen the beginning of what their new government portends. In 1926, with the Home Isles secured, former Labour MP and now Deputy Chairman John Wheatley establishes a secret police force called Special Operations Executive. The SOE takes office in Vauxhall and reports only to the Deputy Chairman of the Union. An internal security organisation dedicated wholly to ideological purification, the SOE's actual size and operations become wreathed in secrecy and fear. Not long after their formation, remaining nobles in the home islands, deemed reactionary threats by the new syndicalist government, begin disappearing one by one. Black trains cross the British heartland with no travel manifest or destination. The British Red Terror has begun. The Terror becomes a grim reminder of the cost of civil war, and marks the end of the social democratic dream of the Labour wing of the Union's leadership. Appalled by the news of the SOE's formation, Union President Lansbury resigns from his post.
From the Memoirs of G. Lansbury. In 1925, a darkness began to spread over our Union. Our dream of a social revolution for and by the worker was corrupted by radicalists into a rehearsal of the Jacobin nightmare of the 1700s. It pains my heart to see the party fall to such depths of ideological depravity, bringing fire and death to its own people. I see within London today figments of the failed Bolshevik revolution a few years ago, and warn our members that syndicalists should not repeat the mistakes of the communists. You cannot shake the devil's hand and say you were only joking.
What remained of the British government proper congregated in Canada, vowing to one day reclaim the Home Isles from syndicalist mob rule. However, Britain's expansive colonial empire could not endure without a government in London. Even before the evacuations began, it had already begun to splinter, as scattered and often confusing reports filtered out to the wider empire. With the head cut from the snake, the dominions turned inward and committed to their own defence. The colonies, abandoned and freed from the shadow of the Royal Navy, entered a period of upheaval. India, once the empire's crown jewel, finally collapsed into civil war between British-aligned forces and independence-minded revolutionaries. British settlers, threatened by native majorities and fear of syndicalist agitation, abandoned by their government and the dominions alike, soon found themselves looking to Berlin to replace the Royal Navy's stabilizing influence. In a cruel twist of irony, Germany had become the sole defender of the imperial order she once sought to usurp. Her status as a superpower remained unchallenged, but now the rising syndicalist tide threatened to undermine her very foundation, constitutional monarchy, and the underpinnings of empire. Slowly, the legacy of the Weltkrieg became clear for all to see. Germany emerged out of the Weltkrieg on the path to great power status. However, she would be challenged on every continent by syndicalist nations and uprisings. Leftist insurgencies sprung up all over the globe, destabilizing Germany's tenuous new grasp on power, and ushering in a new age of revolution. Across the world, battle lines were beginning to form. The answer could only ever be a new Great War, a new Weltkrieg. In the new age beyond the horizon, the sun would rise over a new empire, upon which it would never set, or it would rise over a world beneath the Scarlet Banner. To be continued.
Hey everyone, Vincent here, founder of Kaiserreich Cinema and the director of this episode. I wanted to pop in to present our newest project, Flagmaker and Print. A lot of our fans love the alt history flags we've been making for our own webshop and have been asking me for a way to upload their own designs. As big vexillology fans, this sounded like a great idea to us. So we launched Flagmaker and Print. Flagmaker and Print is our sister webshop with an integrated flag editing tool, so you can upload your own designs and print them. Flagmaker and Print is made by the same team behind Kaiserreich Cinema, and it also helps fund our videos. If you're looking for additional ways to support our work, or you just want to design some of your own flags, go check out our new site, flagmakerprint.com. What if Germany had won World War I? Thank you for watching the Kaiserreich Documentary, a deep dive into the rich and detailed universe and history behind the world of Kaiserreich. An entire universe based on a single premise. What if Germany had won World War I? We are Kaiserreich Cinema, a worldwide collective of artists, writers, actors and musicians, dedicated exclusively to making quality art, video and music content set within the alt history world of Kaiserreich. We are planning about 8 episodes of documentary content with a runtime of about 30 minutes each, totaling a 4-hour documentary series. I am Vincent De Nil, Kaiserreich artist and founder of Kaiserreich Cinema, and I appear at the end of every video to thank you for your continued support. Creating these complex videos requires large amounts of time and effort by our worldwide team of indie artists. We are therefore grateful for all your continued support to Kaiserreich Cinema and her crew. Please consider supporting us by visiting our alt history webshop and buying some of our original alt history art prints. You can also check out our new spin-off project, Flagmaker and Print, which allows you to design and print your own custom alt history flags, and print them on flags, stickers, shirts, and more. The Union of Britain poster, painted to celebrate the release of this video by me and Seymour, is also available on the webshop. Kaiserreich Cinema would not be possible without the unrelenting support of our 130 plus patron backers and crew. Patrons can make cameo appearances in our art and animations, as you can see in the frame below me. The Syndicate recognizes Supreme Backer John Thomas Justice, who shall stand firm in the face of Syndicalist subversion. We also recognize top backers Isael, Breaker of Chains, Mr. Knowledge, who soars high above us in his new ME262, Devo, Wolf Runner, who walks with the Kingfish, Kicker of the International Nationalists, Alex Depage, Raven Legion Pilot Extraordinaire, Kingfish 58, who is chanting with the Funker Radio Legion, De Preussen of the Gallant Cavalry, Jill Bates, Kingfish 58, bringing the Kaiser's will to America, Loki 95, who is passing the ammunition, and we can of course not forget Lincoln Neal, Lydia, Luna, Welfare Checks, and many others. We also recognize our cameo cats. Their numbers are many, and their spirit is in every video. Thanks to Alex Burchards, Alexander, Joshua Butler, Lincoln Neal, Sheridan's Reaver, Ben Davenport, Castro, Stefan Gunnarsson, Luna Walter, Martin Svensson, Russell Apfel, Jules Belia, Peter Bacon, and many more. Webshop customers, patron backers, and Discord members. They are the United Front. All support the cinema in their own way. Will you back us in our continued efforts to bring this universe we all love to the world? Will you back the attack? Will you join the United Front? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you for the next one, cats. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed that video. That was the Kaiserreich Documentary episode 3. I am definitely still here. Just need to make sure I get my OBS settings up. going to unmute myself on Discord, so I should be able to hear you guys right now. All right. Guys, we're out of the video. Can you sound off on Discord so I'm sure that my audio settings are correct?
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, that seems to be working. Oh man, I'm having trouble finding... okay, here's my webcam stream again. Alright, awesome. Kaiserreich Documentary, episode 3. We did it, 30 minutes. Full Union of Britain lore is finally out there. ComradeZim, what are your thoughts?
No, so what do you say?
What were your thoughts on the video?
Yeah, I'm really happy to see it happening. It's just amazing to think that it's finally actually got to this point, really. But I'm really, really pleased with it and how it came out. We couldn't have asked for any better.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing like the prequel video to this one, the one that will define the end of the West Week as well as the formation of the Commune of France. Me and Gabriel are going to start writing on that. Do you guys know who is heading up the Commune of France Rework? Should we get him on Discord?
I don't know if he's around at the moment.
Well, not at the moment. I mean, like in the crew channel, at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, not like right now, but just so we can check in with him. I have the base lore documents that we need for writing, but we'll probably want to check all our lore against his notes to make sure we have everything correct for that video as well. I'll make a note of it that we should reach out to him next week. So I hope you guys loved that video. There's a bunch of other stuff in there. We also have a prize question and a poster giveaway. So let's start with that. Prize question for this video is: what is the name of the secret police force established by John Wheatley? The first person to email me the correct answer at my Kaiser Cinema email address wins one free Union of Britain poster. For those who don't know, the Union of Britain poster looks like this. I really should prepare my files before I do these things. It's here, and then 400 files further down, and then there's here. Okay, we're almost there. Mockups, here we go. One free Union of Britain poster. This one was painted by me and Seymour, Sir Madman Butts on Discord. First call-out poster we did. We're probably going to do a few more. We have some ideas for really cool merchandise that we want to do. For example, one thing we want to work on in the coming months is postcards. We have the ability to print postcards now. They're fairly cheap to produce, so what I think we should do is instead of stickers, you would get the option to choose a free postcard when you have orders over $70 on the web shop. Just a nice little extra in there. Obviously, guys, you guys want to support us on Patreon. That's still open. You can find us at patreon.com/KaiserGetCinema, or swing by our new sister project, which is Flagmaker and Print. Allows you to print and design your own flags. I've been working on it this weekend, working on basically a roadmap for the second version of that Flagmaker. It will also allow you to print your own propaganda posters. We're also working on a design for that, as well as stickers and a bunch of other stuff that we're currently working on. Anyhow, ComradeZim, about the Union of Britain rework, can you basically lay out for us what your plans were for this particular rework, and like what the old lore was like and what the new lore basically brings in?
Well, there wasn't really much in the old lore, but I have tried to sort of keep as much as I can, especially like we've seen a lot of returning characters, like obviously Snowden's mentioned, but he's not a major player this time. Mosley's obviously very major. He's based like the early game, dealing with him, either you side with him or against him. But then other people like a Glace, they're more like a late game Easter egg leader, you can guess, and so we're bringing quite a few new people in with it as well. It's going to be similar in that there's like a free path dynamic between the three ideologies, but instead of just being concrete how they are now, each one will have like a diverging subpath. And then there's a fourth secret path, but I can't really say anything about that. Yeah, that's about it, I'd say.
Okay, cool. Then, Gabriel, I think you were also working on an interlude episode set within the Union of Britain specifically. Is it within this time frame?
Yeah, so there were a couple theories about this precise setting, but yeah, it's definitely within the span of this video. Granted, this video's span is what, like 1918 to 1925 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty broad. Specifically during the British Revolution, as part of my more general work on Kaiserreich, I had to read into some Russian Civil War stuff, and it's really quite something to read the sort of first-person perspectives, written by people at that time and in the aftermath, about just like the levels of really chaos that were happening at that time. And so I'd like to bring some of that into the episode to give the sort of on-the-ground perspective, because at the end of the day, a documentary like this is dealing with a lot of topics, dealing with a really broad perspective. I'd like to, get into the details and how individual people might be experiencing this. People like to kind of throw up, their ideological stances, oh, the Syndicalists are great, oh, the Royalists are great, whatever it might be. But then you have the people on the ground that are caught in between. And I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. For the prize questions, it looks like we already have one correct answer. The first person that answered me, there's a couple, beating all the others by exactly 1 minute, is Rye Awfully. So Rye Awfully, if you're hearing this, I'll drop you an email, send me your address and your preferred size for the poster. I'll hit you up on email and we'll get you sorted out. Congratulations. The correct answer was Special Operations Executive. So yeah, as Flame said, we're basically continuing the process that we started last year, which is we have documentary series to work on the base lore of Kaiserreich, make that very accessible. Then we have the Interlude and the animatic projects, which go into basically single character stories. I think Nights in Shanghai is probably my favorite piece of content we have on the channel right now, and I really hope we can do a lot more things like that in the future. The one thing that we also recently launched is the Divided States website. I'll pop it up on my screen here. So as you guys know, Divided States, this is our big ticket project. We are doing a full series, 20-minute episodes about the Second American Civil War. Also the live action projects, of course. The Divided States is more of a term we're using for all projects set within the Second American Civil War. The big one now is we want to do sequels to the live action stuff we've done. We also want to work on the animatic. Basically, as we've always said, we wanted to make Kaiserreich anime. We think Kaiserreich is a great platform for anime. We don't expect others to come solve our problems for us, so we're just going to do it ourselves. There's a bunch of shots here. You can also sign up to the mailing list at the bottom. If you would like to stay up to date with that project, join us on Discord and sign up to the mailing list. I'll be sending out some new emails in newsletter this week or next week, probably, with behind the scenes shots. We're working on episode 1. We're having a jolly good time. So, ComradeZim and Gabriel, what are your thoughts for the Kaiserreich Documentary project going forward? We've already started writing the second episode, and what we'll be seeing in episode 4, for example.
Yeah, episode 4 is going to be an interesting one, because really the episode we just witnessed is in many ways it's sort of the point of divergence that has the largest impact in the Kaiserreich timeline. Technically it's the different ends of the war, but it's really in 1925, 1924, 1926 that you see the full set of changes that will become apparent later, at game start, fully at play. So the question is really, where do we take the focus? And I think that's still a little bit up in the air. I'd like to focus really myself on the collapse of the British Empire, what's actually happening out in the colonies, the dominions, etc., because really what happens there, and we hinted at this at the end of the video, is you have the disappearance of the sort of power from the metropole, the Royal Navy, which is the spine behind the British Empire in many respects. So once that disappears, people on the ground in those places that are cut off, essentially, have to figure out what they're going to do. So I'd like that to be the focus myself. I guess we'll see what happens, because that is a lot of stuff in a lot of different places. Yeah, we have to cover everything within a reasonable time span.
I think one of the things I've always said is, first I want to do the Divided States. If we have time and energy to do a second animatic show, I would love something that is set within British colonies Africa in the 1920s. I would probably call it something cool like Apocalypse 1926 or something, because I think the perspective of someone who's living in a British colony right after the revolution basically cuts the head off the British Empire would definitely be like a very apocalyptic view of the 1920s. I think there's not enough appreciation for the interwar periods because it's in between two extremely large defining events, but there's like so much crazy stuff that happened in our timeline between World War I and World War II. And Kaiserreich is definitely the same. I think there's a lot of stories that we can still tell there. So you're doing Interlude, so what other projects are you thinking of doing this year?
Well, probably another episode of Interlude at least, on top of the one I already mentioned. Don't know precisely what that'll be. A couple things have been thrown around. One of them was perhaps doing something in Patagonia. I'd like to return to Shanghai at some point.
I'd love to see.
We have more to say.
Yeah. I think I was talking to the voice actor Walter Lutch as well. He's definitely excited to come back on board. I have a project for him for our April Fools as well. It's going to be hilarious. We're doing a collab. But I also think he plays that role really, really well. The Duncan role as well as the smiling Jack Malone role, I think is just... He does that really wonderful, these sort of irreverent characters. The sort of the never-do-well calm man style character, which I absolutely love. I would love to see more of him. I love to work more with him. He's a great guy. You guys have seen him on Livestream before, of course.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Patagonia, more Asia content. There's also, of course, music. We're always doing music. We are currently working on Bella Ciao. That cover should be done, I want to say, within the month or something. I should check in with David. I know he sent me a master. It's on the Patreon page right now, but I haven't seen the latest version of that. It's looking really good. This is, of course, part of the World of Kaiserreich project. We are going to start with World of Kaiserreich Russia, which should hopefully be coming soon. Hussar is doing the illustrations. I'll be doing animation and writing. After that, I want to do like Commune of France. Basically, we're staying in Europe for a while, getting all those big European nations out of the way. That is basically what I wanted to say for our portion of the live stream. So we'll open the floor to questions. If you guys have any questions for us, live chat, let us know. In the meantime, we'll continue have a nice fireside chat. It's been a while since I think we've sat together for a Discord chat. Like, how have you guys been? How's life been?
Oh, well, actually, my week last week started pretty badly because, well, I fell down the stairs and sprained my ankle quite badly, but I'm getting back now. It's on the mend.
That's tough. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
You okay? Like, you iced it, or it's going to be a temporary thing?
Oh, yeah, it's only a temporary thing. I'm alright. I'm mostly alright now. I'm able to walk mostly, but it's still aching a bit, and I'm getting there.
Yeah, I get that. I was suffering from like a pretty big back injury the past few months, so I'm finally back at a point where I can sit comfortably for extended periods of time and I could work again. It was quite annoying trying to do these things, and always being like, oh man, I gotta get up, gotta move around, you know. It was really locking up really fast. Obviously, not much happening in personal lives considering the COVID pandemic. We've been sitting here. It's actually been great for the channel because, I mean, there's not much to do but work, so we've been developing these shows, you know, working on the stuff we're passionate about. But other than that, you know, I feel like I'm getting to a point where I would love to, you know, go to a convention again, meet everyone. It's been so long at this point. It's been a year and a half, I think, and it's probably going to be at least another year before I think we reach any point of, you know, going back to conventions, meeting up with the whole team. Which is kind of sad, but it's like the reality that we will have to live with.
I mean, basically everybody picks up a cold or something at regular conventions, so I can only imagine.
Yeah,
it's something like COVID.
Yeah, that's a post-vaccine thing. We also lost a community member, Yui Long, who went under the Discord nickname Marshall Tito to the virus. Unfortunately, passed away a few weeks ago due to complications related to COVID. It does go to show that, like, it happens to everyone, and it is a very dangerous disease that's still out there. So we all have to basically take our responsibility, which is sitting indoors and not going out for extended periods of time. How's the vaccination situation like over in like upstate for you, Gabriel?
It's not bad. There's actually a pretty big vaccine center opening relatively close to where I live. I don't expect that I, as a relatively young, relatively healthy person, I don't expect I will get the vaccine anytime too soon. But hopefully sooner than later. Supposedly, we're going to have the majority of people vaccinated by May, I think it was. So we're on the right track.
Yeah, by May, that's actually really, like, the US government is really taking like a pioneer position, pilot position with vaccination strategy. Belgium has been really lagging behind. My town has a grand total of 15 vaccinations as of last week. And we have a big vaccination center. Like, they actually opened one for the region here. It's just not working. It's just not enough vaccines.
You guys are producing a lot of vaccines.
Yeah, I mean, we produce them, but we also, like, we export them to other countries. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're for Belgium.
Right.
This is not like the kind of problem where you could say, like, first Belgium, then the world. Like, we need to get every country vaccinated, of course. So I think it's good that the government is allowing these exports to happen. There should be enough vaccines for all of Belgium. I think we have like 17 million doses for an 11 million population. But I think the problem more is the general, like, just Belgian government.
Isn't the Belgian government a hot mess right now still?
I mean, the Belgian government has always oscillated between, somewhat capable and hot mess. I would say we're somewhere within that balance, within perfect normal norms. So that's always been a thing. Belgium is just a very complex country because of, like, poor governmental structure as well as the multilingual situation. I should know because my girlfriend works for the government, and it does slow down government processes a lot. But even that is not really an excuse. I would say there's a lack of trying to find the English words, but I cannot. A lack of will towards more efficient governance. It's like when I see them work, I sometimes think, like, Jesus, like, have used this, use cloud services or use software to automate these tasks, and they just don't do it because it's not, that service doesn't want to do it, and, like, they have this very 1980s mentality, and it just slows everything down, which is unfortunate. But of course, we always say, like, the water's still running, so we should be fine. So guys, live chat. We're going to do the live stream for another 10 minutes. If you have any questions, we have the crew and patrons gathered here for this episode. Let us know and we can answer your questions here. Other than that, tomorrow is the actual release of the video. I think I set it to 11 GMT, no, 11 CET, which would be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time and about 11 Pacific Time, if I'm not mistaken. Doing so much time zones, I'm starting to memorize them. INJ thanks says, do you think the divided states might be a bit too timely and accurate? Yes, so that is a more awkward thing. So what's interesting about the divided states is that I actually started writing the show, or the concept of it, at least still under Obama. Like, this is an old idea that we've had. Reality, you know what they say, like, reality, life imitates art. It's the opposite of art imitates life. So things got really, really bizarre, especially, like, with the storming of the Capitol just 1 week after we launched the trailer, which features a storming of the Capitol. Absolutely bizarre. It's like it's definitely not what we intended for the divided states to be. I do hope that, with this new president, with the election being over, that there is going to be a little more peace and quiet in the United States. I think it was more of an exceptional situation. So I would say let's not make it a topical show. It was intended to be about fictional 1940s. Let's keep it there. No civil war, guys. Peace and love and all that.
I would also say, like, as seriously as people take Kaiserreich, and some people do take it surprisingly seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a mod team. This is a passion project, and so don't get too caught up in ability of this of life to imitate art necessarily. You know, our American Civil War is pretty fictitious. So
it's pretty out there.
Yeah.
I think the interesting concept of the American Civil War, like as it exists in Kaiserreich, basically exists because like devs back in 2004 were looking for an interesting way, like to make the US interesting, and back then, and in many cases still today, the answer would always be civil war, like, and preferably 3-way, 4-way, which is why you end up with the way the factions are today. I think all the lore and sort of the explanation we were putting behind that all comes afterwards. Like the basis of that idea is the US is too powerful in Hearts of Iron. We need to, like, you know, split them up, make it more interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask, oh, why don't you just let us avoid the Civil War? It's like, well, the issue then is you've got to deal with an extremely powerful United States when you're trying to balance the mod and make content that mirrors it, right?
Makes sense.
So suddenly the entirety of South America would have to change because now you have this extremely powerful superpower that has a great deal of interest in what they're doing. East Asia would have to change substantially because Japan would have to worry about the United States. Even Europe, in some way, would have to change to mirror that small, or rather big, detail. So that's the answer to that question, and it's why we don't.
Yeah, I think that just in general, the concept of the Second American Civil War, obviously I'm making a show about it, so I'm biased, but I think it's just a wonderful setting because it sort of transposes what I think is really interesting about the Spanish Civil War to a much, much bigger scale. As well as it gives us set pieces, and especially the anime is gonna have a lot of that. You know, we're thinking about, you know, we don't have the limitations like we have in live action. We have like major tank battle, let's do it. Like skyscraper, gunfights, Louisiana swap boat chase with machine guns, of course. We've got awesome car chases, like all those things that you have never seen in like a World War II style setting. Imagine, you know, a car chase featuring German half tracks on an American highway. Like, it's completely wild stuff. You've never seen that before. Stukas strafing our heroes as they're trying to escape. Just a lot of really cool stuff that we're trying to get in there, and I think it's going to be super interesting for us to explore in that animatic, as well as to some extent in Interlude. I also love, Gabriel, how you're tying Interlude very subtly into things that are happening in focus trees, for example.
I'd like to keep it relevant to the mod.
Talking about deep lore, we also have Kaiserreich Radio. I've talked to Alex, he's working on new episodes. Obviously, he has plans for 4 more. He had a full season of 8 episodes, and basically all of them are set in a different timeline within the Kaiserreich like realm of possibility. It's super interesting. I'm not sure what the newest one is going to be about, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. Nate Byers asks, will we do videos for countries like the Australasian Federation, nations in India? So both of those will definitely happen. I don't consider those minor nations necessarily. Like, let's say minor nations that we would consider nations that are not that much altered from their like real life counterparts. Let's think about, for example, there's not many.
Switzerland?
Yeah, maybe Switzerland. I probably wouldn't do Switzerland because I don't think that Switzerland has that much going on in Kaiserreich timeline. And for example, Caribbean nations, we would do something like, you know, World of Kaiserreich, the Caribbean, and then we just combine a bunch of lore in one video. I think that's the most elegant solution for that problem, because we do have, you know, 130 odd nations to work through. We have about 26 released now. I want to make sure we get to all the major nations first before we start getting into really niche stuff.
I would say that Greece would have been generic, but then I just found out that they had the Megali idea, so that's pretty. We could do a walk on that.
So 2 questions. German Gamer asks, will the PSA get much recognition in future projects? So the PSA does have a role to play in the Divided States animatic. Most of it is set in the territory of the combined syndicates and then later in the Union States, later in the season. But the PSA plays a significant role as well. More to follow. Arno Grunewald asks, he basically asks about books. Obviously, book projects is something that we're very passionate about. Originally, we were going to launch a Kickstarter for a book this year. Now, I'm not so comfortable about doing that this year, considering how the economy has turned for the worse. Our financial situation is not great. I want to wait it out for another year at least, and basically work on the basics, is what I said as well in the State of the Cinema video in January. I said, I want to make sure we get some more Kaiserreich documentary out there, get that base lore fully worked out, finish World of Kaiserreich for Europe, as well as get some episodes out of the Divided States. And then I want to think about newer projects. So previous year was definitely about trying out a lot of new things. We launched a lot of new shows, and this year is going to be about, you know, continuing those set bats, those set episodes. That being said, I think we're reaching the end of our live stream today. I want to congratulate Rye Awfully, who won the Union of Britain poster. Yeah, I just got an email from him. I'll email you back, Rye. Thank you and congratulations for winning the poster. If you guys have any more questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, let me know. That's patrons and Gabriel and ComradeZim as well. You guys want to share anything with our community before we log off for today?
I'd just say, as always, thanks for your support. Thanks for enjoying Kaiserreich.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. So that was ComradeZim, the head of the Union of Britain Rework. That was Gabriel Matsakis Flamefang, who is, of course, director at Cascading Cinema, co-director of this episode. All three of us wrote the episode together. I edited. Gabriel helped out, Marcus as well, and ComradeZim with finding a lot of this great footage that we're seeing. Some awesome After Effects animations as well by Marcus. The next episode will be episode 2, so we're going back in time to talk about the end of the Weltkrieg and the Commune of France. We've started writing it. We expect to release it within soon plus 2 weeks. No, let's say like 2 months. Shouldn't be 6 months like the last episode, as we do have the base lore done by now. And so I'll keep you guys posted. You know, Discord, email, Twitter, you know where to find us. Make sure you follow all our channels. Subscribe, tell your friends, all that usual YouTube stuff. If you want to support us a little further, we of course have Flagmaker and Print, our newest project. If you want to, this is a little side project we've started this year. You guys know our flags are very popular, and people have been asking me, gotten so many emails, 2 years, about, you know, can I have, you know, people attaching their design, being like, hey, can you print this design? I said, yes, of course we can. It gets a little hard when I have to do it manually. So we built this entire app. You can now print and design your own flag using that built-in system. It's going to auto-generate a product for you. Also working on some cool stuff. I am working on allowing the app to generate both stickers and propaganda posters. So we'll be doing a design like the ones you see behind me, and it will essentially auto-wrap your flag design onto a propaganda poster. Then you can pick colors, you can change the text, and then you can print it. It works the same as Kaiserreich Cinema. It's just fully custom. I think you guys will appreciate this. We spent a lot of time working on it, and we're very passionate about that project as well. Divided States project. Make sure to check it out. It's this is the big one. This is our big ticket item. We're working on a Kaiserreich full series animatic show, 20-minute episodes. Hopefully trying to get the first episodes out this year. It is proving to be an extremely difficult project. With massive amounts of illustration. As you can see, there's just frame after frame after frame after frame of animated artwork that we have for the show. If you'd like to stay up to date, you know, you can scroll to the bottom of this website, sign up to our email list, or join our Discord. You guys are always welcome. That's about all I have to say for today. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you have any further questions, let us know. We are on Discord, we are on email, you know where to find us. I just need to find my... there we are. You always know where to find us. I've been Vincent De Nil, founder and director of Kaiserreich Cinema, Kaiserreich fan artist, whose Kaiserreich fan art has gotten somewhat out of control in the past 2 years. It's become quite a thing. Okay, so... thank you all for joining us. I will see you for the next video, cats. See you for the next one.
Kaiserreich Cinema needs you. Back the attack. Share our content or dash over to our alt history webshop.
Right, that should be the end of the video. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you guys liked the video.
Yeah, that was great, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's it really adds to the documentary if we make them a little bit longer and treat a little bit more lore in them. I think this was the perfect length. I want to shoot for 20-30 minutes for these videos always. I think that's just a wonderful length to do.
It reminds me of those amateur documentaries I saw on YouTube like a couple